Hey guys, welcome back to another Diablo video. Now today we're going to be talking about a build that I made focusing on the unique item Staff of Lam Esen. Now, a few rules that I put myself in making this video is that we're going to be using Staff of Lam Esen and no Uber uniques. Why? Because I want to make builds for now that doesn't really have like Uber uniques. Something that you maybe can use when you get to World Tier 4 or 3, and let's say you, God forbid, you get this unique item, and you can maybe start making a build that will transition you to the end game. So is the build any good? Unfortunately, I have to say that I wouldn't really suggest you do this. If anything, this video is a warning for people that want to try out building around Staff of Lam Esen, because the single target damage of Charge Bolt isn't that great. Now maybe in the future Blizzard will release a another unique item, or maybe a affix that would make this deal more damage on single targets, but in AoE it does okay. It's not really that great, but it is doable. I'm gonna be showing here a footage of me doing a pit 60 with this build and Rainment, the chest piece that is unique. But you could also do a different build without using the Rainment, and it will do just fine. You have like more survivability. But if you are using Rainment, the chest piece, you deal more damage to stunned enemies. Okay, so let's talk about the gameplay. If you're using Rainment, the chest piece that is unique, that makes your teleport to suck enemies, like vacuum them on a single place and stun them. The gameplay is pretty much, wait for your defensive cooldowns like Ice Shield and Flame Shield to be up, and then you teleport on to the middle of the group of enemies, and that will make teleport, actually Rainment, vacuum all the monsters on a single place and stun them. Meanwhile, you just drop down your charge bolts and stun them, and spawning a bunch of other charge bolts if you're using the charge bolt enchantment. Also ball lightning, you don't really need to cast ball lightning, but on the enchantment effect, when you make a critical strike, a ball lightning will spawn underneath the monster. So our mana is going to be focused on using charge bolt, but when we're doing critical hit damage, ball lightning also auto cast on the enemies. There's also a version that I will share with you guys that doesn't really use Tal Rasha and Rainment for the chest piece. That just pretty much changes the gameplay a bit. You don't need to teleport in the middle of the group to vacuum them and stun them. Instead, you just focus on attack speed, putting the attack speed bonus affix on your amulet, and making sure that all your pieces have like mana regen on them. And the affix for the amulet is the one that if you crit, your core skills crit, you get 25% bonus attack speed. That will make your ball lightning tick faster and make you cast charge bolt faster. Actually, I do enjoy that build much more than the Rainment, because when you're using Rainment, you're putting yourself in danger because you're teleporting in the middle of the group of enemies, and let's say you're miscalculated and didn't really pop off your flame shield, you will probably die. So it's up to you which one you would want to try out. Okay, so now that we're done with that, let's talk about the armor pieces, starting off with the helm. Now for the helm, we have the runic skull cap of the protector. The stats that you want here would be intelligence, maximum life, and mana per second. Now cooldown reduction is pretty good too, but I think mana per second is the most important one here. We are not using any generator. We only rely on our mana per second stats on our armor. Also, picking up crackling energy does help regenerate mana. Now for the imprinted affix, we have this one, which is the damaging an elite enemy grants you a barrier, absorbing to 10,000 damage for 10 seconds. For the tempered affix, I have here barrier generation and maximum life, but you could also put their lucky hit stun if you want to. Just put a ruby on the socket. Now for the chest piece, we have the Rainment of the Infinite. This is a unique piece of armor. No need to reroll anything. Pretty good stats that complement Charge Bolt. It has damage to close enemies, also damage to stunned enemies. Charge Bolt has a passive that lets it deal more damage on stun enemies, so that complements Charge Bolt pretty nice. It has +2 to Glass Cannon, also the passive which modifies your teleport. This also works on if you're using the enchantment for teleport that changes your dash into a teleport. Doing that will also trigger the effect of Rainment. However, I do like my normal dash and just putting a different enchantment effect on that slot. Now, just in case you don't have the Rainment of the Infinite, you could also work on something like this, which has +5 to defensive skills, right? That's pretty good. With this piece of gear, you could have mana per second as one of your stats, which is really nice for the build. Makes it more like consistent in terms of like casting Charge Bolt. Unfortunately for this piece of gear, I have the wrong affixes. Tempered affix, Frost Nova. You don't want that. You want the barrier generation or lucky hit chance to stun. Alright? But if you don't have anything like this, this one could also work. Pretty basic. It just has intelligence, maximum life. Mana per second is the most important stat here. Also for the tempered affix, you have an option of getting more survivability, maximum life, also lucky hit chance to stun. So yeah, those are options. And then for the imprinted affix, you could also take this. You take 25% less damage from crowd controlled enemies or vulnerable enemies, so that's pretty nice. Okay, so for the gloves, we have here the Sovereign Vambrace of Piercing Static. The stats that you want here is intelligence, critical strike chance, or critical strike damage. Also, vulnerable damage works well. The most important stat for this piece of item is +2 Charge Bolts. Now, I don't have a greater affix for this one, but that's fine. The tempered affix that you want would be lightning damage, lucky hit, a chance to stun enemies for 2 seconds. And the imprinted skill that I have here is Charge Bolt Pierce, but deal 40% less damage to targets after the first one. Make sure that you pick that imprinted affix. It's really important. Okay, so let's talk about the pants for the build. We have here the Runic Leggings of Disobedience. Now, the stats that you want for this pants would be intelligence, maximum life, also mana regen if you have one. Unfortunately, I don't really have a lot of resources, so I have here armor, but mana regen is pretty important for the build. And then the tempered affix for this one is barrier generation, also maximum life, but you could change that to lucky hit stun as well. The imprinted affix for this one is the one that gives you 0.7 armor when you deal any form of damage, stacking up to 40%, and then just put 2 rubies for the maximum life. Now for the boots, we have the exceptional boots of concussive strikes. Now we have here +3 to maximum evade charges. This works with Rainment if you decide to change the enchantment to teleport instead of like a ball lightning or something else. The stats that you want here would be intelligence. Movement speed is the most important stat here, also ball lightning. So 2 very important stats. If you could re-roll the intelligence into mana per second, that would be great. And then for the tempered affix, we have lucky hit, 20% chance to stun for 2 seconds, and then additional movement speed is actually really nice. So overall, pretty good piece. The only stat that I will change here would be intelligence. I will re-roll that into mana per second if I have the resources. And then the imprinted affix here would be damaging an enemy has a 20% chance to daze them for 2 seconds. Daze meaning that they can't really attack you, and then you deal 20% increased damage to daze enemies, which is really nice. It's a form of like defense, also offense for this build. Now let's talk about the main weapon for the build. This is the Staff of Lam Esen. It has like pretty good stats. We have critical hit damage, lightning damage, and a chance to restore primary resource. +8 to Charge Bolt. I believe this is +6 originally, but you know, it got some masterwork in it. And then the unique passive or talent is the when you cast Charge Bolt, it has like a 60% chance to be attracted to enemies, and also it lasts 300% longer. And then just put some critical strike damage gem there, emeralds. Also, I think vulnerable damage is pretty good too. Okay, so now that we're done with the left side, let's go to the right. Starting off with the amulet, I have here the Storm Swell amulet. Not really the best stats in this one, but you know, you want basically critical hit damage and critical hit chance, maybe some vulnerable damage. But you know, maximum life is pretty nice for added survivability. The build is kind of, in general, you know, sorceress doesn't really have the best defense in terms of like survivability, so having maximum life there is pretty nice. But if I would change something here, I would definitely change the resource cost reduction to something else. But the tempered affix that you want would be lightning damage, but this one is pretty good too. It has shock critical strike chance, also lucky hit to restore some resource. Is pretty nice. All right, so in my opinion, just change the critical strike chance to lightning damage. Also change the resource cost reduction into maybe critical strike damage or critical strike chance. All right, and then for the imprinted affix, you could change this to something else. I personally enjoy the one that gives you bonus to attack speed when you hit an enemy with a core skill and crits. But for me, on the video that or footage that I was showing earlier, this is the setup that I was using. You deal 44% increased damage to vulnerable enemies while you have a barrier. Now every time you use a skill or a cooldown, you get a barrier, and we also have some passives that increase the duration of our barrier. So most of the time we have a barrier, and most of the time enemies are vulnerable. So you know, this is like a pretty good setup for the amulet. Also make sure that you have the resistances up to max, like 70. So that's why I have a resistance to all elements in my jewelry here. Okay, so let's talk about the first ring for the build. We have the Circle of Control. The stats that I have here is maximum life, critical strike chance, and critical strike damage. You want lightning damage there, or you know, this one is pretty good too. Critical strike chance for shock skills, and then resource generation. The imprinted affix is the one that gives you 35% more damage on immobilized, stunned, or frozen enemies. And this build will stun enemies a lot, so that's pretty good. And then just make sure that you have the capped out resistances. So I have here +8 to resist all elements. Okay, for the second piece of ring for the build, we have the Tal Rasha Iridescent loop. This is a unique piece of ring, so no need to reroll anything. But if you don't have this ring, don't worry about it. Just pretty much make another copy of this Circle of Control, and then pick for the passive or imprinted affix, pick the one that gives you bonus damage to stun enemies, or maybe pick a affix that gives you bonus when you have a barrier. You know, something like that will also work instead of you having this Tal Rasha Iridescent loop. Okay, so for the skills, let's take a look here really quick. I did put 2 points of Firebolt here, just in case you don't want to use your Flame Shield to trigger Tal Rasha. You could put this to your enchantments, but you know, it's up to you if you want to use that type of setup. Just max out Charge Bolt, pick the passive here on the left side, and then put 1 point on each of these defensive skills. But if you have the one that gives you +2 defensive skills, that would be really nice. And then pick this one, put 3 points there. I would just leave the glass cannon for now because the build is already lacking in survivability. And then put 1 point of Ice Blades. Also pick the passive down here. Then max out all of these 3 passives here. Get this one. This gives your barriers 24% increased duration. And then max out Ball Lightning. Okay, so and then pick the passive here on the left side. Put 2 points on the first passive here, and then max out the bottom 3 or bottom 2 here. And then pick the ultimate, pick the passive there. Put 3 points here, 3 points here, 3 points here, and then pick this key passive on the right side. Okay, so for the skill assignment you want for your enchantments, I have here, let me see, Charge Bolt enchantment. You know, when you stun an enemy, there is a 48% chance to release 3 charge bolts to them. If you don't want that, you could also put this one. This gives your skills like fire burning damage, which makes triggering Tal Rasha much easier. It's really up to you if you want to do that. You could also trigger Tal Rasha by just you know, using flame shield. So you know, we could do that. And then for the other enchantment, go for ball lightning. This will make you cast ball lightning by just doing critical strikes. There's a 30% chance to spawn a static ball lightning underneath the enemy, and we have lots of crits, so this will happen a lot. If you don't want this one, you could also change into teleport. Alright, so this one will make your evade short range teleport, but it has like a fixed cooldown of 12 seconds. So yeah, those are the setups that I would suggest you to pick. For me, I'm gonna put Charge Bolt here. Alright, and then I'm just gonna use Fire Flame Shield to trigger the fire element of the Tal Rasha. Also use Ice Blades every time, so that you have 3 stacks of Tal Rasha, so you can deal maximum damage. Okay, so let's talk about the Paragon board. I'm not really confident with my setup, but it does work, and you know, I'm not really spending that much time researching the best setup here. But you know, the first board here, and then the glyph that I chose is Control. Okay, and then I went up here and pick up this yellow node here, and then went here and put Destruction on the glyph. You could see the setup there. I made sure that I picked up the Static Surge, and then I went left side with Overwhelming, and then I think I rotated this one. This is the one that has Ceaseless Conduit, and then picked up these yellow nodes here, and then put here the Electrocute glyph, and then this one is Electro. I think I rotated this one. Alright, and then after that I went here up on the second Paragon board, and then I don't think rotation was made here, but basically I picked one, this one, Enchantment Master. Made sure to pick some of the yellow nodes here. Okay, and then went up here and picked Exploit. Overall, I think the build is quite fun to use. For me, it's very visually entertaining to see all the lightning effects, numbers on the screen. And personally, if I was the one to choose, I would pick the version that doesn't use Rainment. I know that Rainment is like doing more damage because of the bonuses that it has with close enemies and stun enemies, but I enjoy the one that has like the setup that has like all mana per second on the pieces of armor, and then just change the amulet into the one that gives you attack speed bonus when you do a critical hit on your core skills. That is for me the most fun version of this build. Anyways guys, that is it for me. Again, not really a strong build. I apologize if I failed to make a build that is strong, that is overall strong, you know, both AoE and single target. If you have any ideas of like how to make the build stronger, let me know down in the comments. Again, I avoid using Ubers for now, but maybe in the future I will start using Ubers. Anyways guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.